Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Tuesday. We are with you for the next 2.5 hours here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. However, wherever, whenever you're tuning into the show today, thanks so much for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuy will be along in a while. Brendan Dorzinski is off today. We are with you until 5:30 this afternoon, at which point we'll hand it off to the K-State Sports Network from Learfield for some Wildcat basketball. It is still basketball season for some schools. Kansas State no longer among them. Baseball tonight from Toynton Family Stadium. K-State hosting a top 25 ranked Nebraska team. 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock first pitch right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. So we've got 2.5 hours of show today and probably about 3 hours worth of content. So we're just going to squeeze it all in tight, like me trying to fit into a size medium t-shirt. And we're going to make it happen here over the next 2.5 hours on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to get to some baseball today. Been watching the Royals. Watched them last night. Watched them this afternoon before I turned it off to go and get on the air. Royals are in action as we speak. They are finishing up the exhibition season with an afternoon exhibition in Arlington against the Rangers. Last check, they were down. It is a worse situation now. It's now a 4-0 Rangers lead as they play in the top of the 7th. Most of the Royals starters have been removed from the game offensively, only played about half the game today before giving way, making sure everybody's in one piece and good to go for when they start counting. And that's Friday, of course, as the Royals open their regular season in Atlanta against the Braves. And it may be an awkward time to discuss this article from Eno Saris and this prediction from Eno Saris of The Athletic after watching the Royals offense do pretty much literally nothing today and just about nothing last night. It ended up being a 3-2 loss to the Rangers. But how good can the Royals offense be this year? Again, the small sample size of the last 16 innings here, the last 16 innings of 18 in the exhibition season would suggest that they're going to stink. But big picture, how good can the Royals offense be? Because there is a sabermetric case to be made for them being really good. And I think there is a non-sabermetric case as well to be made for the Royals being a good offensive team, a above average offensive team when they've been pretty well below each of the last 2 seasons. So we're going to get into that. We'll continue our Royals countdown to opening day. We are 3 days away from the opener. Bonus points before we get there. If anybody can tell me what Hall of Famer was the first to wear the number 3 for the Kansas City Royals. No looking it up. You can find it. I found it. But if you can get it without looking up, I'll be real impressed. You can tell me which Hall of Famer was the first to wear number 3 for the Kansas City Royals. And I don't mean first Hall of Famer to wear it. I mean first Royal to wear the number 3. It's a number with strange history in the history of the Royals. It's really odd. Anyhow, if you can get that without looking it up, I'll be really impressed. And based on a conversation we were having yesterday, how many teams in Major League Baseball can honestly go into this start of their season with the hope of making the playoffs? Because if you make the playoffs, baseball in particular lends itself to this more than any other sport. You buy a ticket, you can win the raffle. You get into the postseason, any team can win 11 games in a month. That's what it used to be. It used to be 3, 4, and 4. Now I guess it can be 2 and 3 and 4 and 4. So 13. Any team can win 13 in a month. And there's some teams that can't. Those are the no-hopers. But the list of teams that are really no-hopers, it's not that long. And if that is the case, if there are so many teams that go into a season thinking, you know what? we can actually make the playoffs this year. Then why are you letting the owners lie to you about how badly the sport needs a salary cap? We'll have that discussion a little bit later on. Going to dive into some baseball today. Feeling good about it. 70 degrees outside. There's a real game tomorrow that counts, and the Royals opening day game is just 3 days away. Also going to get into the discussion about whether or not we have seen Bill Self coach his final game at the University of Kansas. Not because Kansas wants to move on from him, but because perhaps Bill Self, for his own health, may need to move on from the coaching profession. The answer he gave to a question about his future in the immediate aftermath of the St. John's loss. On the one hand, you can understand that it was affected by the emotion of the moment and the disappointment of the moment. But on the other, don't think I've ever heard Bill Self so non-committal about his coaching career and the future of his coaching career. And so you arrive at a place where whether you think it is going to happen or not, you have to sit with the possibility at this stage, if you are a Kansas fan, if you are Kansas athletic director Travis Goff, that Bill Self may have coached his final game. Is that something you should want? No, of course it's not something you should want. Don't be ridiculous. I can't imagine any KU fan would want that to be the case. But if it is the case, where should KU go from there? I have one name that Kansas absolutely has to make say no if they do indeed have to embark on a coaching search. I have been of the mind that they were never really going to do a coaching search, but I am also now of the mind that maybe they ought not to just automatically hand the reins to the next guy on the bench. So we'll get there, and of course, we'll have plenty of Jayhawk reaction to get to with Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. It's a Tuesday after all, so Michael's going to join us. We're presuming he got safely through TSA lines and got out of San Diego safely. But Michael Swain is going to join us at 4:35, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, for Jayhawk Weekly. He was in that press conference. He was at Viejas Arena for that post-game press conference with Bill Self after KU's second-round loss to St. John's. So we'll get his reaction to that and a bit of a premature look ahead for Kansas basketball with or without their longtime head coach. That is coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We got all our other typical Tuesday shenanigans. We got headlines. We got what is wrong with you. We'll get to some random question Tuesday briefly. That's all coming up here today on the show. And, of course, your interaction with the program. You make it better when you interact with the show today. You make the show better. Text line is open, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Can also interact in the live chat on our YouTube channel. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. If you are hearing us live on the radio, when we are on the radio, we are also on the video. Video has not, to this point, killed this radio star, which calling me a star would be the overstatement of the century. But I thought I'd, little MTV reference for you. Anyhow, when we're on the air live, we are also streaming our video on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have yet to do so. It doesn't cost you anything but a click. And if you're watching the show live, hop in that live chat. Say hello. Interact with your fellow listeners and your hosts as we go along during the show today. I see Vance, Mark H. is in. Our pal from Overbrook is in this afternoon. Great to see you. We got Paul in the chat. Andrew is in as well. Appreciate hearing you guys, hearing from you guys, and look forward to hearing from more of you as we go along throughout the day here on 580 Sports Talk. Royals trailing the Rangers 4-0. It has been record-wise not a very good exhibition season for the Royals. They are 6 outs away from finishing with, I believe, a 9-21-1 Cactus League record, which, whatever, who cares? They played 3 weeks of the Cactus League without any of their good players. They didn't get a lot of help from their very best guys in the spring. So, yeah, that's what it would look like if the Royals had to play extended stretches of real games without Bobby Witt and Vinny Pasquantino and Jack Caglione and Michael Garcia and down the line. So not fussed about the record, not even really fussed about the fact that they haven't done much offensively in these two games in Arlington. Salvador Perez hit a solo home run in the 7th inning last night to account for one of the two Kansas City runs in that game. Also had a very loud single off of the right center field bullpen wall. Almost looked identical to the home run he hit the previous night. That ended up a long single. Jack Caglione followed it with a hard single through the hole. 110 mile an hour off the bat in the 2nd inning, but nothing came of that rally. And it's been a pretty meek offensive effort from the Royals in these two games, which, look, you're just trying to get through these with no damage done, last moment tuning and tweaking and things of that nature. Obviously better to play well. It'd be better to have scored 10 runs than no runs, but you're not really fussed about the results of today, except I will say that Seth Lugo's command in the 1st inning, not what you want. Walked 3 in the 1st inning. It reached the point, and teams agree to do this in spring training games. They'll pull a pitcher before they throw too many pitches in a single inning because that's particularly stressful. But then they'll bring them back into the game to keep getting their work in. So that's what the Royals did with Seth Lugo today, if you weren't following along. Lugo walked the bases loaded with 1 out in the 1st inning. He'd thrown 27 pitches. They gave him the hook. They got him out of the game. Eli Morgan came in, got a sacrifice fly and a line out to end the inning without too much damage. And then Lugo came right back in, pitched the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and got pulled, I think, with 1 out in the 5th when he was up around 80 pitches, which is about where Michael Wacha got to before they pulled him last night. That was apparently the plan for those guys. Right now, John Schreiber appears to be making a little bit of a situation for himself in the 7th inning. Again, you would like it to have been better, but you're not going to freak out over a bad result in an exhibition game. Big picture. Eno Sarris of The Athletic put out his 10 predictions for the Major League Baseball season. He admitted these are kind of out there. These are kind of bold predictions, you would call them, for the Major League Baseball season. And if you're not familiar with Sarris's work, he's very much analytically minded, very much sabermetrically focused, writes from the statistician's point of view primarily. And one of his bold predictions, based on the numbers, this isn't based on vibes, this isn't based on, this is based on cold, hard, sabermetric, data-based fact. Eno Sarris believes it's possible for the Royals to have a top 10 offense in Major League Baseball in 2026. This is what Sarris writes, quote, Bobby Witt Jr. was a top 30 hitter last year, hit for more power the 2 years before. He's only 25. Michael Garcia, I'm going to get that right eventually, Michael. I apologize. Michael Garcia is fresh off a great run in the World Baseball Classic. He was one of only 23 players last season with a hard hit rate over 45% and a strikeout rate under 20%. He's only 26. Vinny Pasquantino also had a good WBC and was just outside the top 50 hitters in the whole league in the second half last year. He's 28. Jack Caglione, along with Junior Caminero, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Julio Rodriguez, were the only players last year with a bat speed faster than 76 miles per hour and a less than league average strikeout rate. Caglione is 23. Carter Jensen swings the bat nearly 75 miles per hour and struck out less than 20% of the time last year. He's 22. The Royals have a young core in their prime years with an enticing ability to hit the ball hard while making contact. That's what all those numbers mean. Don't get your head spinning with regard to hard hit rate and bat speed percentages and things like that. Let's simplify that data for you and tell you exactly what it means. These young dudes, this core of Royals in their late to early 20s, the core of this lineup, the young core of this lineup. Well, Salvador Perez is part of the core of the lineup too, but he's not in his 20s, not a spring chicken anymore. This group of guys swings the bat fast. What does a high bat speed give you a chance to do? Hit the ball hard And if they're not striking out, what are they doing? Putting the bat on the ball. So if you're putting the bat on the ball with a fast swing and hitting it hard, what does that give you a chance to do? Get good results offensively. And Bobby Witt Jr. has, and Michael Garcia has, and Vinny Pasquantino has, and Carter Jensen did in a brief cup of coffee in September last year. And Jack Caglione still can. Nobody's selling their Jack Caglione stock, even after a very rough 2025 debut, because he has a rare ability. You hear those hitters he's keeping company with when it comes to bat speed and strikeout rate? So you swing hard and you don't strike out an inordinate amount. Junior Caminero hit 45 home runs last year. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was the best player in the American League champs. And Julio Rodriguez is going to win an MVP award at some point. That's good company to be in. Even though it didn't quite work out for Jack, even if he's got to hit a few more line drives and fly balls and fewer ground balls, when it clicks, it could be really, really special for him. That's your young core offensively. Those are skill sets that they have that give them the chance to be among the best offensive players in the American League. Saris continues. They've recently added intriguing veterans like Isaac Collins, Lane Thomas, and Starling Marte. Salvador Perez will always be there for them, it seems. Most projection systems finally give them 9 above-average hitters. Baseball Prospectus's Pacoda says they're the best offense in their division. So why is this a bold prediction? Last year, their park-adjusted offense ranked 22nd. Even if it was 11th best in the second half, they've only twice had a top 10 lineup in the last 35 years. You, of course, know what happened one of those years, because one of those years was 2015. But go back to that data point. Second half of last year, post-All-Star break, the Royals had the 11th best offense in all of baseball. And they did that with Jack Caglione as a black hole in the lineup, with Mike Yastrzemski basically having 2 really good weeks and not doing much other than that, with a whole lot of at-bats for Randall Grichuk and Adam Frazier. All of those things were true about the Royals. And yeah, Salvi catching fire in August was a big part of this, July and August. But there were a lot of things that were not trending in a good direction for the Royals in the second half last year, and they had the 11th best offense in baseball in the second half. And these guys are young enough. Like Bobby Witt Jr. could get back to 2024 form offensively with a batting average above 300, with a bit more power, with 30-plus home runs. Michael Garcia could add power. Vinny Pasquantino could be more selective at the plate, add a little bit of on base to his game. Certainly, there's a chance for Cags to improve across the board. So I think that the good hitters for the Royals, the chances are high that they will continue to be good and that some of them can even get better. And that Caglione will join the ranks of good hitters for the Royals, which leaves the question, how steep is the drag factor? How bad are the worst players in the lineup? And how many at-bats are those guys getting? That's going to be what I think makes the difference for the Royals. I suspect, much like 2024 and 2025, the good hitters for the Royals will continue to be good to great offensive players. Even Salvador Perez, who, yes, he has his flaws as an offensive player. He doesn't walk, and he strikes out a little more than you'd like. But even with that, he was an average offensive player last year because he had 30 home runs and drove in 100 runs. If he and Vinny and Bobby and Michael and Cags are all above average and Jensen joins the party, okay, you got 6 guys you feel really comfortable with taking an at-bat. But the problem last year was that the Royals gave 219 plate appearances to Drew Waters, who was 30% below league average OPS plus. And Kyle Isbell got 409 plate appearances, and he was 20% worse than league average. And Jack Caglione's 232 plate appearances were 51% worse than league average. And on down the list, Michael Massey got 277 plate appearances, 37% worse than league average. Freddie Fermin was 20% worse, 18% worse, actually, than league average with his 208 plate appearances. Mark Canna got 125 plate appearances. Those were gross. John Rave, 175 plate appearances. And look, there's no avoiding it. Injuries happen, right? Every now and again, you're going to have to reach down to AAA and bring somebody up who's not quite big league good, and they're going to turn in some replacement level or below at bats for a stretch. No team can avoid that. Not even the mighty Dodgers, Yankees, any of the juggernauts. You're going to give it bats to guys who aren't great hitters. The trick is to give as few of them to not great hitters as possible. What have the Royals done to try and mitigate this? Well, the Caglione at bat should go to a better version of Jack Caglione. The Drew Waters at bats, those are Starling Marte at bats. He was a near average offensive player last season, was above average the year before that. Lane Thomas is going to take some of those Kyle Isbell at bats and turn them into hopefully above average at bats against left-handed pitching, which will give Isbell more of a chance to be closer to average, not a total drain on the offense, if he's seeing more right-handed pitchers and fewer left-handed ones. Isaac Collins being a switch hitter is going to give the Royals an opportunity to get more advantageous at bats platoon-wise. That's where the optimism for the Royals offense comes from. As much about the bad at bats being less harmful as it is that the good players getting at bats could be even better in 2026. If both of those things click, then yes, this is very realistically a team that could have a top 10 offense in Major League Baseball. And if you pair that with a top 10 pitching staff, which is what they had last year, even with all of the injuries they dealt with, well, you know what that is? That's a playoff team. We'll take a time out here at 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll continue our Royals countdown to opening day. We're going to talk about the list of teams who can realistically make the playoffs in Major League Baseball. It's a bigger list than you think, by the way, because a lot of you, and I know it because I read the comments, I read the texts, I read the YouTube chat, a lot of you had bought into the lie for Major League Baseball owners that the only way to save the game is with a salary cap. That's the Dodgers are ruining the game, and the only way you save it is with a salary cap. And it's a lie. And I'm going to explain why it's a lie. And we're going to keep talking about why it's a lie all the way through this 2026 season, because December 2nd is probably the day Major League Baseball locks out their players. Because there are going to still be owners that are going to fight for that salary cap. But it's a lie. And we'll talk about why it's a lie. We're going to get into Kansas basketball. I don't even know if you want to call them credible rumors, but there's a lot of talk out there now. And Bill Self's answer to that press conference question on Sunday did not exactly quell any speculation about that having potentially been Bill Self's last game in Lawrence. What would it mean if it were? What would it mean for KU basketball if it were? Michael Swain's going to join us bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We're short half an hour today due to K-State baseball, so we're with you till 5:30. We're really glad you're here for this edition of 580 Sports Talk. It's 3:33 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting revved up on this Tuesday. Royals will not be shut out in their exhibition finale. Nick Lofton doubled, came in to score on Omar Hernandez's RBI ground out. Lofton had doubled with a runner on. It was Josh Rojas, but he was thrown out trying to score on the play. And then Lofton was able to advance to third. He scored an RBI ground out. So the Royals now trail 4-1. They're on to the ninth inning. Nick Mears just worked a clean inning of relief, and that was a sight to see. Been a rough spring for Mears, who came over from the Brewers in the Angel Zerpa trade. Also brought Isaac Collins to Kansas City. And Collins hasn't had a really good spring either. He was slow with the knee injury, and then he puked on a roller coaster, and all his teammates made fun of him for it. He played today. He started. He went 0 for 2. Mears had not had a particularly good spring, but he's got a big arm, good curveball. I think he's gonna be a positive in that Kansas City bullpen. He worked a clean eighth for the Royals, his final meaningless inning of 2026. Just half an inning left. Presuming the Royals don't score 3 and elongate this, and I don't think either team wants to see that happen. I think both the Royals and the Rangers are hoping this game is over after the top of the ninth, and then it's on to the Peach State for the Royals as they open their regular season Friday night in Atlanta against the Braves. You don't need me to tell you, but just in case, we've got every pitch all season long, Kansas City Royals baseball right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. You don't have to go hunting. We're not moving them to the sister station. Every game right here, like always, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9, starting with Friday night's season opener. That means it's 3 days to the start of the Royals season. And I didn't see anybody get the answer in on the text line or in the live chat, but nobody wore number 3 for the Royals until 1975. They, of course, played their first game in 1969. It took 6 years for somebody to wear number 3, and it would be a future Hall of Famer who was the first to wear it as a Royal. That, of course, I say of course, like this is common knowledge. I'll be honest, until like 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't know this guy had ever played for the Royals. Harmon Killebrew, of course, much better known for his time as a Minnesota Twin. That is the team where he made his name and built his Hall of Fame resume and hit most of his, I think, 571 career home runs. Let me look that up. 573. Darn, I was off by 2. But he did have a 106-game stretch with the Royals in 1975. He hit 14 of his home runs. 14 of his 573 came in Royal Blue. He hit just 199, though, and that was the end for the 39-year-old Killebrew. He was the first Royal to wear number 3. The most recent Royals player to wear number 3, Brian Pena, the immortal Brian Pena, who wore it for stretches from 2009 to 2011. I say last player. That, of course, is important because when he was the manager of the Royals, Ned Yost wore the number 3. And it has not been issued since Yost left the organization, at least not to a player. We've talked about the possibility of retiring numbers. I don't know that you can retire Ned Yost's number. They did a lot of losing with him as the manager, but they did win the biggest prize you can win, of course, in 2015. And the only other manager to win a World Series as a Royal got his number retired. So there's that argument as well. I think Ned is probably just a Royals Hall of Famer, as though that's anything to be ashamed of. Probably not going to retire the number 3. We'll probably see it again at some point down the road, but it does not appear that we're going to see it in 2026. We'll take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, there are probably more teams than you realize that are going to show up at the ballpark Wednesday through Friday, whenever it is that they happen to open their season, with reasonable belief that they can make the playoffs in 2026. And if that list is so long, how broken can the sport really be? We'll discuss it next here on 580 Sports Talk. Folks, make sure you join us March 26th for the 2026 Farm Profit Seminar presented by CanEquip in Marysville, located at 2005 Center Street, 2005 if you prefer. Doors open at 4 p.m. There'll be demos, free dinner, and expert insight from Bobby Reifenrath, Sarah Gideon, and Thomas Eisenbarth. Get more details about this free event and register now at 580WIBW.com. That's the 2026 Farm Profit Seminar in Marysville, presented by CanEquip, March 26th. That's in 2 days. So don't drag your feet. Go register for this free event at 580WIBW.com. Spencer and I were discussing offhand yesterday in the 5 o'clock hour of the show. First of all, we were commiserating because there is a very real chance that the two worst teams in all of Major League Baseball in 2026 will be Spencer's favorite team from childhood, the Washington Nationals, and my favorite team from childhood, the Colorado Rockies. Very real chance that those are the two worst teams in baseball. Like, if you wanted to parlay that, like the worst records in baseball would belong to the Nationals and the Rockies in some order, probably the Nationals better than the Rockies. That might be a winning proposition at the window. That's how bad those two teams, their rosters are not good. They are in very obvious rebuilding mode. Both organizations appear to have entered a stage in their franchise's history where they decide, well, what if we join the 21st century? What if we turn these computers on? What if we tried a spreadsheet? What if we tried being like everyone else? So those teams are not going to be very good this year and are not going to make the 2026 Major League Baseball postseason. But we were discussing that, and in the midst of that, we were talking about, well, how many other teams are there? Like, how many teams realistically think they have a chance at going to the playoffs? And it's easier to make a list of the teams that don't have a chance. Teams that are openly rebuilding going into 2026, where the results are less important than the process, the player development, the growth of the organization. Folks, there aren't a lot of teams that are in open rebuild in 2026. Outside of the Rockies and Nationals, the White Sox are still there. They're a year or two probably ahead of where they might be literally a year ahead of where Colorado is. Remember, the White Sox won 43 games in 2024, and the Rockies won 43 games in 2025. So the White Sox probably a year ahead of Colorado, literally, but not ready to contend yet. Minnesota tore all of it down last year. That Joe Ryan, Byron Buxton, and like the 10 games Royce Lewis is healthy. That's what the Twins got cooking this year. They are not a serious contender. They are openly rebuilding. The St. Louis Cardinals are certainly not concerned with winning this year. They are starting a long overdue overhaul of their competitive process. So you have those five teams, and then you have the winners and new champions of the most hopelessly run franchise in baseball. For a long time, this was the Rockies. Not anymore, baby. We got guys who know how to turn a computer on. No, the most hopeless franchise in Major League Baseball. Put your hands together for the new champions of that category, the Los Angeles Angels. Their stadium is falling apart. Their owner doesn't give a damn. Mike Trout's back is like a jigsaw puzzle. The Angels are the most hopeless team in Major League Baseball. Truly and utterly and irreversibly, for the time being, hopeless. So there you go. Those are the six teams that don't have a chance to go to the playoffs. And you're thinking, boy, this should be a longer list than that, Dan. I mean, only 12 teams make the playoffs. And this is true. But there are teams that were not as bad as you remember them being last year and are young enough to believe that they can take a step forward this season, like Miami, who won 79 games last year, and Sacramento, who won 76 games last year. The A's, by the way, in case you're confused. We call them the Sacramento A's on this program. There are teams that have not typically spent big, but have some young talent that is top tier and actually invested in improving their big league rosters this year. Pittsburgh, They probably didn't invest enough. They almost certainly did not, but they added Ryan O'Hearn and Brandon Lowe to their lineup, and they've got the best pitcher in the National League and Paul Skeens and a bunch of other really good arms coming up behind him. Could Pittsburgh be a realistic playoff contender? I think you walk into a season feeling like, hey, we got 30 Paul Skeens starts. Good luck beating us in those. Baltimore were not good last year, but they've still got all that young position talent, and they added Pete Alonso to that lineup to give them some needed power. Baltimore get better this year. Absolutely they could. I don't know if they have enough pitching, but we'll see. Teams like San Francisco and Cleveland are probably just going to be mid this year. But like for Cleveland, mid in the Central with like 1 week where you win a bunch of 2-1 games, that can win you the division. Mid goes a long way in a division like the American League Central. So they're not hopelessly out of it. I think they'll finish third in the Central, but they won the thing last year, and their team doesn't look a whole lot different. They still got Jose Ramirez. Why shouldn't they believe that they're contenders? San Francisco went 81-81 last year. They've got some real talent in their lineup. They've got a bona fide horse top of the rotation in Logan Webb. San Francisco in 81 wins. It only took 83 to make the playoffs last year in the National League. Why couldn't they just have 2-3 more one-run wins and tip the scales in their favor? And then you have the Rays, who they're probably smarter than you in their front office. They're back to playing games in the stadium that their team and their lineup have been built for, rather than playing at a spring training park as they had to do last year while the repairs to Tropicana Field were being made. In case you missed that story, they're back at Tropicana Field this year. The Rays won 77 games last year. Could you talk me into them winning 87 this year? Sure you could. It's the Rays. It would be par for the course. They've still got a ton of pitching. Junior Camanero's maybe the best player you don't know, but should. Certainly the best power hitter you don't know, but should. So yeah, I think there are 24 of the 30 major league teams that can start their seasons over the next 3 days and think, you know what? We got a shot. Are we as good as the Dodgers? No. Do we have as much talent on paper? Do we have as much money on the field as the Dodgers? No. But could we get to October? And if we get to October, could we win 3 out of 5 against the Dodgers? Could we win 4 out of 7 against the Dodgers? I mean, look how close. Look how freaking close the Blue Jays were for taking 4 out of 7 from the team that's ruining baseball. All they had to do was not give up a home run to the worst hitter on that team with their most expensive reliever on the mound. That's all they had to do. And they win. They win the World Series. And we don't spend this whole offseason talking about the Dodgers are the boogeyman and they're ruining baseball. No, man, you wish you rooted for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are spending money, putting money on the field. Your owner can put more money on the field than they do. In fact, and some of you have alluded to this, you folks talking about in the YouTube live chat right now, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. The idea of the proposal of a salary cap, like this is going to be the thing that wipes out the 2027 baseball season because the owners are going to insist on a salary cap and the players don't want it, and they're the only union in professional sports that hasn't been broken by the owners, and so we're not going to have a 2027 season. So enjoy baseball while you've got it. I've heard it, and I understand where it's coming from, but some of you had alluded to this in the chat. A salary cap has to come with a salary floor. And you know who's not really keen on a salary floor? Some of these owners. Because they don't want to spend even that much money on payroll. A floor would be good for the players. It would. Wouldn't be as good for them as a cap would be bad for them, but it would be good for the players. I think Bob Nutting in Pittsburgh or Artie Moreno in LA or the Rays consortium that owns that team, I guess they did just sell. It's not a consortium anymore. It's one guy. I forget his name, though. You think he wants to be told how much he's got to put on the field? You think Dick Monfort in Denver wants to be told how much money he's got to put on the field? So that's not a slam dunk. This idea that the cap is this cure-all or the cap has 100% approval across ownership because the cap comes with a floor. And some teams just don't want to spend that much money. Some owners just want to keep the money for themselves because that's what they're doing. And I know what the argument is. I know what the pushback is. Well, it's a business and they have a right to run it however they see fit. And I understand the logic to that argument. If we were talking about any other business This is baseball. This is a wins and losses business. This is an entertainment product. And you know what's not entertaining? Losing 100 games. Trust me. You don't need to trust me. Y'all have lived that too if you're a Royals fan or if you're a fan of any number of teams that have lost 100 games in their history. I think the only one not to do it is the Angels. Look out for that this year, though. So that's why I just get riled up about this idea that the salary cap is the only, number one, that it's necessary. Have to have it in baseball. Why? A whole bunch of teams that can make the playoffs this year, even the ones that don't want to spend money. That's why we have the draft, right? Because then the Pirates can trip and fall into a generational talent like Paul Skeens, and that makes them decide, hey, you know what? While we can afford Paul Skeens, let's try to put a winning team on the field. Let's surround him with a lineup of actual major league hitters this year and see how that goes. They don't have enough of them probably, but they've got more of them than they used to. 24 out of 30 teams think they can make the playoffs, and all you got to do is get there. Didn't we just watch the Diamondbacks as the 6th seed in the National League go to the World Series 3 years ago? You don't even need to be good. You just need to get there. That Diamondbacks team stunk. They had a negative run differential. They got to October, and stuff happened, and they were 3 wins away from being the champions of baseball. And if you're in with that kind of chance when the season begins in March, that's a sign of a pretty healthy sport that should be having fans very excited, unless you live in Colorado or D.C. or Orange County or Southside Chicago or Minnesota or St. Louis, in which case it's already wait till next year. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up this hour. 580 Sports Talk next. Royals did lose that game in Arlington. 4-1 the final score. They went meekly in the ninth, as I kind of suggested they might. And now the next time we'll see the Royals on the field will be Maikel Garcia standing in against Chris Sale on Friday night in Atlanta, and it'll count. Season opener is this Friday night for the Royals in Atlanta against the Braves. Not a great exhibition season record-wise for the Royals, but again, they're missing all their top-line guys for 3 weeks. Don't pay attention to the record. Throw it all out. It all ceased to matter about 15 minutes ago when the final out of that game in Arlington was made. Now it's for the money. And there's baseball tomorrow night, too. So tomorrow on the show, we will give you our Major League Baseball predictions. We got a jam-packed show already set for tomorrow. We got baseball predictions. We got mock draft Wednesday. Really excited about the Wednesday show. But we still got a lot more of Thursday to get to here as well. And we're going to talk, to lead off the next hour, about another what if for Kansas basketball. Not just the what ifs of their entire most recent and recently concluded season. Not the what if of the game against St. John's or even the what if of the game's final seconds. The what if that was it for Bill Self. Because it might have been. And I'm not putting a percentage on that. I'm not giving you any insider info here. Or I'm not being coy either. But you heard him postgame. He's going to think about whether he wants to come back next year. And we haven't really heard that from Bill Self in the past. So what if that was it? We'll talk about it. Plus, Michael Swain will join us from fog.net. That's coming up next hour, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on a Tuesday. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video streaming channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube and WIBW News on Facebook. Great to be with you. We're with you until 5:30 today. We're going to break away for K-State baseball. Got a midweek old Big 8 rivalry renewed tonight as Kansas State welcomes Nebraska to Toynton Family Stadium. We're going to have the call from the K-State Sports Network from Learfield. 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock first pitch here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9. So that is why we are off half an hour early today. We'll be off half hour early on Friday for the Royals opener as well. And we won't have a show on Monday because that's the Royals home opener when they take on the Minnesota Twins at Kauffman Stadium. That's a 3:20 first pitch that day. So we will be off the airwaves, of course, so we can bring you the Royals home opener on Monday. So, yeah, this is the time of year where the baseball schedule starts to play a little bit of havoc with when we are on and when we are off and when we start, when we finish. But we know you enjoy hearing the ball games, and we're thrilled to bring them to you here on 580 WIBW. We're going to talk some KU this hour. The idea that Sunday's game might have been it for Bill Self, that this might seriously and truly be the point in time at which Bill Self decides to end his legendary Hall of Fame coaching career in Lawrence, has gained a little bit of traction. And yes, from like the internet at large, but also from Bill Self himself. The way that he answered the post-game question about his future was, I feel, different than what we have heard from Bill Self about considering his future. So we'll get into that and talk about that possibility that, again, I am not going to sit here and put a number on it, and I am not withholding anything from you. I'm not being coy here. I don't have any inside information. I don't believe anybody who says that they do at this point have any inside information about Bill Self's state of mind. What we have is what he said on the podium, and we'll play that so you can hear it yourself. But in case you haven't heard it or you missed it on Sunday, but that's what we've got to go on. That and the recent health history for Bill Self, and why it is all of a sudden a not all of a sudden, but why it is a consideration, maybe even more so now than it had been the last couple of years. So we'll get into that a little bit, and I'll throw out the name. I'll do it. I'll tell you, the guy you have to make say no if you're Kansas doing a coaching search. There is one phone that you've got to call and call and call and make them tell you no. And maybe even just make them tell you no until you can get to a number where it's a yes. But I have my name for that, and I think it's a really, really obvious one. We'll also have What Is Wrong With You coming up here in a little bit. Plus, we'll talk about the Bill Self scenarios and the end of Kansas's season and where the Jayhawks go from here with Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He will join us as he does every Tuesday at the bottom of this 4 o'clock hour for Jayhawk Weekly. You can get involved with the program today. 785-272-9429 is the number. 785-272-9429 is that number. You can also interact with the program via our YouTube live chat while we are live on YouTube, which is every day that we are live on the air, which is, well, today, 3 to 5:30, but most days, 3 to 6, on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. While we broadcast the show live, there is a live chat that runs during the show. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, you can hop in the live chat and say hello and ask questions and give comments and interact with your fellow listeners and your hosts as we go along. We invite you to join and enjoy the chat today and every day over at 580 Sports Talk. Andrew asked if I'm going to Kauffman Stadium on Monday. If the MLB credential portal would function properly, that's the plan. Tried to open it up today, and it was slow rolling. It might be that they don't throw everything up for those first games unless it's a seasonal request, which doesn't make much sense for us to do a seasonal request because, I mean, let's be honest. We're doing a show until 6 o'clock with a lot of 6:40 first pitches. Timing of it doesn't work out great. If they build the new ballpark like in Carbondale, I think we could probably pull it off. If they plunk down the new Royals stadium in Lecompton.
Why don't they?
There's some open space out there. I think
there's
an
open space. This is just me randomly lobbying since they're not going to bring flights to Topeka. Why don't they just redo the airport, man? You could have teams fly in right there and fly out, and your baseball stadium's right there.
A ballpark next to an airport. That feels like a gimmicky thing they did, like MLB The Show or something. You can see the planes coming into LaGuardia at Shea Stadium or at the City Field now there in
Flushing.
In Flushing, yeah, you could always see and hear the planes coming in if you're watching a day game at Old Shea and now City Field. But it makes it tough to get out to all those weekday games. So we do the single game credential requests around here. Maybe that portal is a little bit in flux because the season starts tomorrow. And they're getting all those games ready to go. But anyhow, that is the plan, that I'll bring you some coverage, and we'll have some audio from the clubhouse, and we'll be ready to go on Tuesday with some reaction to that home opener, plus the first 3 games of the season. Hopefully the Royals are 4-0 by the time we talk to you on Tuesday. That'd be nice. We go for that. Anyhow, again, the live chat, very active. Appreciate you guys being in there today. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube.
Way better than what your team and my team are going to be.
Right. Like we talked about. We might really root for the 2 worst teams in baseball, you and me.
We
really might.
I was talking to Brendan earlier because the Nats open with the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
And
an early 580 Sports Talk Bowl.
Yeah. And then they play Philly, and then they open, I think, at home at Philly, and then they host the Dodgers. And I'm like, I'm preparing for 0-9.
Yeah, that could be a tough start for sure. No doubt about it. All right. Before we get into this Bill Self conversation, I want to play the audio here of the question and the answer in case you did not hear it on Sunday in the post-game press conference after Kansas's loss to St. John's eliminated them from the NCAA tournament. Bill Self was asked about his future, and this was how he answered the question. This was how Bill Self sounded in the aftermath of that loss.
Given what you've gone through on and off the court, how much time will you take to reflect upon what is next on this stage of your career?
Well, I haven't really gone through much on the court. I've gone through some stuff off the court. So I'll get back and get with family and visit and see what's going on. I love what I do. I need to be able to do it where I'm feeling good and healthy to do it, fairly well. So I'll get back home and it'll all be discussed.
So that was the extent of his answer. He would go on and clarify later with another question that he does or did at that moment feel good physically, but there have been certainly health challenges for Bill Self ever since the health scare that kept him from coaching in the 2023 NCAA tournament. He had the heart catheterization procedure done, and that kept him from coaching in the tournament that year. And ever since then, it has felt like we are close to the end for Bill Self. It never felt in the first place like you never got the feeling that he was going to be a guy that coached into his 70s like Roy Williams did, like Mike Krzyzewski did. But the heart catheterization in 2023, the stents he got put in the summer of 25, the abundance of caution that led him to being hospitalized and missing the trip to Boulder this season, those things are beginning to add up. And like anybody else who does anything else, I'm sure that Bill Self would like to stop doing what he loves on his own terms instead of being forced out by his own body. Anybody would want the same. And the idea for this season, of course, was that this was a team that could give Bill Self a Hollywood ending. I think that was a line of thinking. I don't want to say it was broadly held, but it was certainly out there. the thought that this is Self's last ride. This is Self's last great team. They got Darren Peterson. They nailed the portal. They're going to win another Big 12 with Peterson. They're going to make a Final Four, and Bill Self's going to be able to get a Hollywood ending. But how often do you get the Hollywood ending in college basketball? Roy Williams didn't get one. They missed the tournament his final year. Or no, they missed the tournament. They lost in the first round. Missed the tournament year before. Jim Boeheim missed the tournament his last 2 seasons at Syracuse. Even Mike Krzyzewski blew senior night and a Final Four game to North Carolina in his final year. That's whatever the opposite of a Hollywood ending is. You don't get it. You don't get to write your own ending the way that you might like. And sometimes you don't get the option and you decide, you know what, I'm not going to keep shooting till I miss. Sometimes you just got to walk off the court. I want to be clear, though. Bill Self's contract, as you may be aware, it's a rolling 5-year contract. It's essentially a lifetime contract. And as long as he wants to be the coach, he should get to be the head coach at Kansas. Bill Self can still recruit, can still scheme, can still get the most out of his teams, and he has not, to his credit, and unlike many of his contemporaries, used the difficulties of, quote, the NIL era, end quote, as an excuse. He hasn't run away from it. I don't think he's going to use it as an excuse whenever it is that he does decide not to coach anymore, like Jay Wright did, like Tony Bennett did, some of his contemporaries who are close to him in age. Yes, Bill Self's old school double big style of play and some of his offensive concepts are outmoded, but they were outmoded in 2022 and Kansas won a national championship. He's not adaptable. This is not a coach that you run off. This is the coach you beg to stay. This is the coach where the program you are with him and the program you become without him are 2 roads diverging in a wood. Because whoever is next, whenever they are next, ain't winning 17 Big 12 championships and probably isn't winning 2 national championships. This guy has done that. This is not a coach you run off. This is not a coach you watch their teams and say the game passed him by. It has been a frustrating run of NCAA tournament appearances for Kansas. It's been a frustrating run of Big 12 seasons for Kansas by Kansas's lofty standards. But as we were talking about on yesterday's show, the standard at Kansas has remained where it is because of how much they have won. The standard has slipped at places like North Carolina following Roy, like Kentucky, like even at Duke. There were years under Krzyzewski where that program had slid. And Duke's the only other blue blood that's even comparable to Kansas in the sense of the down years are still NCAA tournament years, are still 20-win seasons. You're not losing 15 games and hoping for an NIT bid. That's a down year. That was a down year as Jim Boeheim's career was concluding at Syracuse. That's what Indiana is now. That's the down year for UCLA. That's a down year for North Carolina. Kansas's down years are they're a 7 seed. And that's happened twice under Self in all these years. So the standard has remained what it is because of him. That is not a coach where you are secretly hoping, you know what, maybe it's time to do something new. Yeah, like what? You sure? Because the standard is high because of what a great coach Bill Self is. And that's not to say that Self is perfect, that he doesn't have flaws. The ongoing flaw that Kansas teams have had the last 3 seasons have been a lack of a reliable three-point threat and the accompanying lack of spacing. That's why Kansas's half-court offense was so bad this year. It was so bad that they had to play Darren freaking Peterson off the ball. They had to put him off the ball because if they put him on the ball, that meant Melvin Council was on the ball, which meant you had one even kind of three-point threat on the floor with your best 5. And you know what that means? Darren Peterson driving into triple and quadruple teams. That's what you get with that. They had to play Peterson off the ball. That was the roster construction. It wasn't intended to be the roster construction. And could you argue that I mean, maybe Jaden Dawson should have played more, or Cole Rosario should have been allowed to get more confidence, and there should have been more shooting on the floor at all times for this Kansas team. Yeah, you can make that argument. But I still think that Bill Self is the coach that still gets the most out of his players, maybe better than any other coach in America. This is not the coach that you push out the door. This is not the coach that you run off. This is not the coach where you hope to do something new. You hope it keeps being this forever while acknowledging that it can't be and that it won't be and that it might not be as soon as this year. I think Bill Self's got a lot of respect for the sport of college basketball and for his peers in coaching. He was the president of the NABC at one point. So whatever clarity we get about Self's future, we're not going to get it until after the Final Four. Because Self is the kind of guy who would not want an announcement about whether he's staying or retiring to overshadow what his peers are doing and what is happening in the NCAA tournament. I don't think that's how Self's ego works. I don't think he would want to overshadow the tournament, overshadow some of his peers. So I don't think we're going to know until a day or maybe two after the end of the NCAA tournament what the future is going to look like. But I do believe, and I hold both of these thoughts in my head. And I got a texter from the 615 who kind of nodded at this when they said, I didn't think it was a coincidence this season that they brought a former NBA head coach into the staff this particular year. There have been a lot of tea leaves pointing to the idea of Jacques Vaughn as the coach in waiting. And would that surprise me? Not even a little bit. And do I think Jacques Vaughn could do the job? Sure, I do. I think he could do the job. I think there are a lot of cautionary tales out there in college basketball about hiring the beloved program guy to take over for the legend. One of them just got fired at Syracuse. Another's about to get fired at North Carolina. So there's, buyer beware a little bit, but I do think that Jacques Vaughn probably could do a good job. I don't think there's anything that would make me repel me the idea of him as the head coach. But also,
do you ever want to be the guy to replace the guy?
It's
we talked about after Saban.
Yeah, it's hard to be the guy that follows the guy, but Bill Self was the guy who followed the guy.
Very true.
That turned out okay. He was the guy that followed the guy. Though Roy never won a title at KU. He hung a lot of banners. They won a ton of games. That was going to be a really hard act to follow. And Bill Self was at Illinois and just about to get that program cooking. Self had gone to an Elite Eight at Tulsa. He had Illinois on the cusp of something special, which Bruce Weber then converted into a national title game appearance in 2005. The temptation ought to be very high for Kansas to say, we can get whoever the hell we want to take this job. And honestly, that should be the approach. If Bill Self walks into Travis Goff's office tomorrow and says, I'm done, I can't do it anymore, the coaching search should include everybody in college basketball. And the number one guy that I would call, and I would make him tell me no. The guy, I would ring his phone off the hook, and I would make him tell me no, I'm not coming to Kansas. TJ Otzelberger. I make TJ Otzelberger tell me no. I make him say no. Because, let's be honest, and you know this because their successful football coach, who was winning at a level that program is not accustomed to, just decamped for Penn State. Iowa State's a great job for fan support, not a great job for financial support.
Yeah.
Otzelberger's making less than $4 million a year. Bill Self's on over $10 million a year. If I'm Travis Goff, that is my first phone call. I am telling TJ Otzelberger, I can pay you double what you're making now, and you can recruit the same kind of players, only better. You've got Adidas money now. You're not at a forgotten school in the middle of Iowa. You're at the number one Adidas school, and you can go get the kind of players you want, whoever you want, with our resources, with our backing.
What about Tommy Lloyd?
I don't think Tommy Lloyd would leave Arizona. He's a West Coast guy. He's a West Coast guy. You know,
Yeah, but if you
Gonzaga.
presented them Kansas,
I would prefer Otzelberger over Lloyd. I really would. I think Otzelberger's the better choice. I mean, look, to my point, like, you can call anybody and anybody's going to listen. But about the only guy who wouldn't listen would be Shire, right? Because he's a Duke guy, and Duke's the one job where, yeah, you maybe don't take any other job. Duke is the Duke job. That might be the job in all of college basketball. But everybody else is going to take your phone call when it lights up from the 785 area code. Everybody's going to take that phone call. And Otzelberger would be my first choice. You know, my second choice would be. And look, like, live in a world for a second where Otzelberger took that job. Imagine the first trip for an Otzelberger coach KU team to Hilton Coliseum. They would need the National Guard protecting the court.
yeah.
You know, my second choice might be Brad Underwood. I'm not saying that to be a troll. Like, I'm serious. Hired Bill Self from Illinois. We know KU's a better job in Illinois because Bill Self took it all those years ago. Imagine a Brad Underwood-led KU team at the Octagon. Just live in that world for a second. No, but those are, you know, broader discussions for another day. But end of the day here, it is, I think, more of a possibility than it has ever been that somebody else is going to coach Kansas next season. And again, I'm not being coy. I'm not withholding anything from y'all. And I'm not going to put a number on it because I don't think that's fair, because it's Bill Self's call, as the texter puts it from the 785. Bill Self is Kansas basketball at this point. He gets to decide. Yes, 100%. I'm not going to make that decision for him. I'm not going to put a number on where I'm at with, is he staying, is he leaving? But it is not a possibility I would have entertained any other offseason before this one.
Yeah.
And I think it is a world that maybe we got to prepare to live in. We'll talk more about it with Michael Swain of Fog.net in a little while. But first, we got What Is Wrong With You coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. It is What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. Two new stories competing today, trying to take down our winner from yesterday, the maintenance man who got caught on camera. He was there to fix a washing machine at a rented apartment, and he took a pee in the guy's sink and got caught. Kitchen sink. Bathroom sink is one thing. Gross, but that's one thing.
There's probably a toilet, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's a rental
Yeah.
property. Just go find the bathroom, man. Find the can. Ask to use the bathroom. And if there's nobody around to ask, just go use it. Pee in the kitchen sink. Horrifying. Two new stories. Go ahead, Spencer.
All right, we are going to go to Florida. A routine vehicle shipment took a wild turn when a Lehigh Acres man was arrested after deputies say he ditched his own car and took a customer's brand new 2026 Porsche for a spin instead of delivering it to the
like
Midwest.
Ferris Bueller. Okay.
The Lee County Sheriff's Office says the victim hired a transport company to ship his Porsche and two Honda scooters to Michigan on March 18th. But 2 days later, despite the company claiming the delivery crew had been stopped by police, the victim noticed live tracking updates showing something unsettling. The Porsche wasn't sitting in the trailer, it was moving. Deputies with the 2nd Precinct said they tracked the luxury vehicle to the DMV in Lehigh Acres, where they found the hired driver, Alfonso Avila, behind the wheel. He reportedly told deputies he pulled the Porsche from the trailer because it was smaller and more convenient than using his own vehicle while trying to renew his driver's license. Deputy detectives said they later found the trailer and the victim's two scooters intact. All three vehicles were returned to their owner. Avila was arrested and charged with 3 counts of grand theft of a motor vehicle.
I mean, he's not wrong. It probably is smaller, maybe a little convenient. I don't know how convenient it is to steal a vehicle, but
Bro,
yeah.
He stole the vehicle and went to the DMV to renew his license.
That is very funny. Yeah, a little Ferris Bueller to that story. I need audio for mine. We're going to Blair County, Pennsylvania, Altoona, where a man faces arson charges, accused of setting fire to a home early Sunday morning with 3 people inside. According to witnesses, police say 43-year-old Martin Haig allegedly set fire to a residence, and he was singing while he did it. What song? Appropriately enough. You familiar with the Talking Head?
Yeah.
Yeah. Burning down the house. He's standing there, burning down a house, and he's singing, burning down the house. Nothing I say is going to be better than just letting this song play. Please don't DMC us, Talking Heads. We're big fans. Anyway, Haig is then accused of standing in the doorway of the home, allegedly trying to prevent responding firefighters from entering the home. The 3 residents were all able to escape the home. Firefighters reported significant damage to the living room area and determined that a chair had been set on fire. When questioned by police, authorities say Haig claimed he was, quote, having a bad day and had tried to put the chair in the fireplace. Police say Haig later admitted to setting the chair on fire because it was dirty and then extinguishing it and then trying to burn down the house. 365 degrees. Burning down the house. I love that song. Anyway,
Full clarification here. I was going to pick this story, went to go copy the link into our document, and realized you had.
yeah, it's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, burning down the house guy wins today, but I
It
don't think he
does.
beats the sink.
No.
No, that would still makes me angry.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough one to top. That's our winner of What Is Wrong With You. Michael Swain of Fog.net is next. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, who joins us every Tuesday at this time for Jayhawk Weekly. Michael's coverage of the Jayhawks is at Fog.net. If you're a VIP subscriber to the 24/7 Sports Network, you get all of his best information and writing. Michael, can you describe to me that locker room, that atmosphere for KU following their loss to St. John's in San Diego on Sunday, particularly relative to maybe the last couple of years of early exits for this KU team? Did this one feel different in any way?
Yeah, well, okay. I think context is important here. KU continues to find ways to lose in like the most heartbreaking fashion for players. Like you think about, Arkansas in 2023, right? KU is leading in that game and just totally collapses down the stretch. That was a super, I think, heartbroken locker room. You look at, I think, last year you have the KJ Adams injury, which I think added another element of an emotional feeling. The end of the career for, I think, some of those guys, even if, as Hunter Dickinson said last week, that some of them were checked out. That would probably be after, I think, the one in Iowa after Arkansas. And then I think in between them is the one from Sunday night. Losing on a buzzer beater is tough. And Marco Jackson definitely took it hard, understandably so. I thought it was pretty cool that, Travis Goff went up to him in the locker room and talked to him for a little bit. That was a cool touch. And obviously other guys were kind of walking by him and saying, hey, man, you're good. Keep your head up. But yeah, definitely, I think a pretty upset locker room. Not as, I think, bad as it was for 2023 with the Jalen Wilson, Grady Dick, Kevin McCullough team, but it's still one of those where anytime a season ends and you've got seniors in the room, you've got guys who have played the last game, like it's always going to be tough. And I think that was definitely one of the themes of the locker room on Sunday.
It's never just one thing, of course, but what is the thing that ultimately you feel is the reason why, for the fourth straight year, this Kansas team is not playing into the second weekend of the NCAA tournament? If there's a biggest reason, what is it?
Yeah, I think that. Well, I think you can more broadly look at the rosters, right, that were constructed and just the lack of ability to get anything from your bench. That is one thing that really, I think, sticks in my mind, where you look at the game yesterday, or man, what day is it today? Tuesday? All right, the game Sunday. Feels like Monday. Man, you look at the game and it just exemplifies this season where you just never knew what the players coming off the bench were going to give you. Like Cole Rosario was really unplayable for a lot of the season. Then all of a sudden he comes in the game, gets the offensive rebound to put back, makes a three, like has his best stretch that he's had in weeks. And Del Marco, one of your best on-ball defenders, gets blown by for the game-winning basket. Like you got Paul Mbia showing up all of a sudden after looking like he had cinder blocks for hands and feet, in January. Like it's just one of those where the game, I think, in and of itself and really just the whole time in San Diego exemplifies the issue. And it's that Self didn't know what he was going to get from certain players. And that's been the biggest thing where, sure, KU's starting lineup is good, but by the time you get to March, these lineups are just so worn down where Trey White's got no legs left. And, he just goes cold, and Melvin Council has no legs left. He goes cold, even after getting some days off. Like, it's just one of those where you can compare it to St. John's in the way that they built their roster, where they had a lot of guys who have talent, right? Sandin, former 5-star. You've got Ian Jackson, a former 5-star. Bryce Hopkins, right? He's been around the block. Zuby. But they've got a bunch of guys, 8 guys who can play. And they spread their roster around in terms of the money. And then you've got KU where, you got Hunter Dickinson last year, and you got AJ Storr and Riley Griffin and all those guys. And this year you got Darren and Flory and Jaden Dawson getting a lot. It's just one of those where the way that the roster build has gone, it has led to a situation where by the time the postseason comes, the starters are worn down. The bench is at a point where guys aren't really playing with a ton of confidence, and you don't know what you're going to get from them. And then you end up getting into a game like you saw on Sunday. And so I think it's just one of those where if you want to look at the real crux of the issue, it's just been the roster builds around the team.
Is that inability to trust the bench throughout a season, is that down to the players aren't good enough to make Bill Self to deal with growing pains from guys like Mbia and Rosario and Dawson in games in December and January, to where you, by the time March rolls around, have maybe ironed out some kinks and can trust those guys in spots to deliver for you? Does Bill Self need to, and this is not a new question to ask about the program, given the last couple of years, but do they need to, loosen the reins a little bit on some of these reserves and find out if, in fact, they can be more than just a 6 or 6.5 player deep team?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple things, right? You can look at the roster construction and evaluation. And Bill Self said this after the game. They got to evaluate better, right? Like, this isn't me having a hot take here. This is what the head coach said, right? They've got to evaluate talent better. It starts there, I think. And then I think the nature of Bill Self being a hyper-competitive human being creates situations where you're playing UConn at home, or you're playing Duke in the Champions Classic, or you're playing at Carolina. And maybe the Carolina game is a bad example because some of the guys got playing time. But, like, you get into the kind of late November, December part of the schedule, and you're playing high major teams on the road, like at NC State, and you want to win those games. And so are you going to give Paul Mbia 8 minutes against NC State when he is struggling? That's kind of your big question. Or like Jaden Dawson, right? He has the injury. He obviously had some struggles going into the year. I think kind of maybe similar to a Nick Timberlake, where can you do the other things outside scoring the basketball well to earn that playing time, right? That starts in practice. And if you're not going to do those things, you're not going to play under Bill Self. And so I think it's a two-way street in that regard with some of the players. But then for Cole Rosario to go from starting games and being a guy that the coaches talked about super highly to someone that was just DNP after DNP in Big 12 play to all of a sudden he's back on the guard rotation, I think you can easily look at that and ask, okay, hey, could you maybe have split some of, Jamar McDowell's minutes, just, because they're kind of a similar role as kind of more of a spot up shooting guard. So it's one of those where the schedule doesn't help because KU has to win those games, because what happens in March then is that the selection committee looks at KU's, record. And if they see a double-digit loss season, even though those losses were to a number 1 seed in Duke, a number 2 seed in UConn, like those are tough games. KU could have very easily scheduled some other mid, Power 4 team won that game and their record looks better, but it's an easier schedule. So there's all these dynamics, I think, that go into the lack of, I think, bench development. And this isn't just a this year thing, right? This is a recent year thing.
Michael Swain is our guest from Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, joining us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. This is Jayhawk Weekly on 580 Sports Talk. You were in the post-game press conference. We've seen all the headlines. They all include the word non-committal regarding Bill Self and his answer about what he will do next season. When do you think Kansas will know? When do you think Bill Self will know? When do you think he'll let Travis Goff know? When do you think there will be clarity on that situation for Kansas? Because I suspect that if Bill Self were going to announce anything, either he's coming back or he's staying, I think he would want to hold that and not disrupt or overshadow the ongoing NCAA tournament. That's my suspicion. Do you think that is likely that whatever announcement there might be, that it would wait till the end of the tournament?
I don't think you can. No way you can. You can't wait that long. The portal opens the day after the national championship game. Like, you're so behind the 8 ball if you wait that long, because at that point, and look, like the portal's already, like guys are already, it's just like football where, KU football had a bunch of visits lined up and basically kids already committed before the portal even opened because the way stuff works with agents. Like, KU can't afford to wait until the 7th, right? The day after the title game, because then, okay, Bill Self says he's retiring then. Well, then you got to go find a coach, and the portal's open and good players are going to be going from the portal. The new coach is going to have to build a whole new roster through the portal. Like, the sooner the better, I think, for Travis Goff's perspective. I think he's going to want to know. I think Bill Self's going to want to have it out there too. Stay or go, right? If he's back, you want that out there right now so that people know that he is coming back, that he's going to build another roster, and that Kansas is going to be a threat in the portal to get guys. Like, I think this is something where I don't know if you can have this linger through the Final Four. I think this is something where over the next 7-8 days, you probably need an answer, just because there's so much that has to happen either way, either in terms of, trying to figure out, okay, what's the next step? Who is actually staying from this year's team? Okay, after that, then you got to figure out who, if Self does retire, who's going to be the next head coach at Kansas? Like, that's one of the big questions you're going to have. So I just think generally, right, this is one of those situations where I think sooner the better for KU.
What do you think the level of desire is to maintain the pieces? And I won't make you go one by one down the list, obviously, but just broadly speaking, with the pieces that have eligibility to return to Kansas for next year, do you think that there's a pretty high desire to try and bring as many of them back as possible? Or is there a feeling like, all right, maybe we had some misevaluations here. Maybe it's better that with our recruits for next year, we really go heavy on the portal and maybe less on bringing guys back?
Yeah, so I think that's another one of those where it's kind of a little bit of a two-way street. Like, it kind of depends on the numbers that guys want to ask for. Like, if Bryson Tiller comes back and wants to be paid like Floyd Badunga this year, like, is that something you're gonna do? Because that's a pretty high dollar figure. And so I think some of it depends on the numbers that some of the guys want, in terms of the renegotiating of their 1-year contract. So that's one part. And then I think you look at it and say, okay, Cole Rosario, I'll use him as an example. After the year he had, is he going to want to re-up for another year? That's just a question. Like, does he believe in, the direction he's headed, or does he feel like he has to go find somewhere else to go play consistently? Like, I don't know. And so those are kind of the decisions that'll have to be made, is the guys sit down and talk with the coaches. Like, that's one of the big things that'll have to happen here in the next, week, 10 days, is the meetings with Bill Self and the players to kind of go over, hey, this is where we see you trending. This is where we feel like you can go. Or, hey, we really aren't sure if you're going to be able to play here because we are going to go do this in the portal, and we're going to add this player and this player, and we have you kind of at this slot in terms of our projected rotation next year. So I just think it's one of those where, it's just going to be a moving target, so to speak, because it's all going to be just case by case.
We're joined by Michael Swain of Fogdana and 24/7 Sports, and case by case and things going on there. How do you think this affects potential signee Tyron Stokes, and if he chooses Kansas or not? Obviously, Bill Self, I would think, would be a big factor on why he would choose Kansas.
Yeah, I think, obviously Self is going to be a big factor in all this, right? If Self retires, the recruiting class is gone, the roster's gone, and the next coach will build his own, right? That's just how this thing works these days. There's too many examples of it to say otherwise. If Self stays, KU's got a decision to make, because Tyron Stokes is going to want top dollar. And your question is going to be, are you going to want to pay top dollar for that player? That's going to be one of the big questions. And so I think that it's going to be fluid, right? I think Stokes, now that it's gone on this long, he's probably going to want to wait and see what happens in the portal with some of these schools, right? What type of situation is he going to be in? What type of role is he going to fit? Like, I think we could see a situation where Tyron Stokes, maybe waits till April or May to see what some of these other rosters look like, and then makes a decision from there. And if that happens, there's just so many different ways it could go, depending on what KU wants to do as well with the money it has.
Michael Swain covers Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a VIP subscriber today, and this would be a good time to be a VIP subscriber as the transfer portal starts moving. You're going to want all of Michael's info right there on your mobile device or your computer screen. Michael joins us every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Sounds great. Talk to you guys next week.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take a timeout, come back, and wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Michael Swain of Fog.net for joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. One texter for the 316 has an off-the-wall proposal for the successor, should KU need one, for Bill Self this offseason. Hard to pass up a Naismith Coach of the Year who's on the market. Jerome Tang could win a natty in year one at KU. I tried to do that with Brendan off the air. I couldn't keep a straight face all the way through it. I couldn't do it.
I've seen way too much K-State fans.
What if you could get a
on
coach
Twitter.
with Big 12 experience who's been to an Elite Eight more recently than Bill Self has? Yeah, I couldn't do it. I couldn't get all the way through it with a straight face. But a lot of people were throwing names out during that segment on the YouTube chat, and it's like, well, yes, you call Dusty May. Yes, you call Tommy Lloyd. Yes, you call Fred Hoiberg. You can call anybody you want because you're Kansas. That's how it works.
Hell, you even call Coach K.
I don't know that you call Coach K. Maybe you ask him his opinion.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think? But no, like the thing, though, is that one of these coaches is going to win a national championship in a couple of weeks. Like one of these guys we're talking about. Maybe it's Dusty May. Maybe it's Tommy Lloyd. And it's really hard to get a guy away from a national championship. I'll always wonder if KU had beaten Syracuse in 2003. Could Roy Williams have really left for North Carolina? I think he probably still would have.
Probably.
The pull of that job was so strong for him. But it might have been a different equation if Hakeem Warwick doesn't block that three out of the corner. Maybe, just maybe. We've only got half an hour left. We're going to break away early for some K-State baseball. So we got headlines and a final word on the final half hour of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final half hour of the day here on 580 Sports Talk. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And, of course, on our video streaming channels, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, WIBW News on Facebook. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis with you. Bottom of this hour, it's off to Toynton Family Stadium. K-State Sports Network bringing you K-State baseball tonight. The Batcats taking on Nebraska, who's the top 25 team in the most recent college baseball poll, 24th to be exact. So an interesting, nifty little non-conference affair between old Big 8, Big 12 foes tonight in Manhattan. We'll have all the action for you. 5:30 pregame, 6 o'clock scheduled first pitch tonight.
You'll get their Wyatt's pipes
Yes.
on the air tonight with Brian Smoller.
Yes, it's always nice to check in with Wyatt during baseball season. Network broadcast of K-State baseball tonight. So we don't have a lot of time left together. I want to hear from you in this final half hour of the show. As I mentioned, we are live on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk. You can jump in the live chat there. You can also text the program. 785-272-9429 is the number. That is 785-272-9429. We can go ahead and get right into some headlines. We began with a headline that just broke about half an hour ago. Kansas State football has found their new cornerbacks coach. Marcus Woodson had initially joined the staff, but decamped for Ole Miss. So there was a vacancy, and Kansas State has filled it with a veteran on the defensive side of the ball. Marcel Yates has been announced as the Kansas State cornerbacks coach. 24 years in college coaching, 12 years of experience as a coordinator. Most recently was the secondary coach and passing game coordinator at Texas Tech from 2022 to 2024 before not coaching last year. He spent, prior to his 3 years with the Red Raiders, 1 year at Oregon in the same role, 1 year at Cal as the defensive backs coach, 4 years at Arizona as the defensive coordinator and position coach there. Was also previously at Boise State, Texas A&M, and Montana State, where he had his first job in coaching. The Los Angeles, California native was a 4-year letter winner at Boise State as a defensive back. And again, 24 years in coaching. Not sure what led to him leaving Joey McGuire's staff and not coaching last year, but he is back in the game. He is the secondary coach at K-State. That's obviously a role that will be very intriguing, a position, I should say, that will be very intriguing to follow this coming year, because it certainly felt as though returns were starting to diminish and that players were not performing to their potential, their athletic potential in the defensive backfield with Van Malone as the secondary coach. And that is not me. I am not going to be the first one to say anything bad about Van Malone. Everybody loved Van Malone. But Kansas State kept turning out guys who had great athletic profiles and would end up testing really well at the combine and being fairly high NFL draft picks, and did not produce at the level you would expect NFL draft picks to produce at in the Big 12, like Marquise Siegel and BJ Payne. You expected those guys would play better based on their athletic profiles, and they didn't. And so I think that it will be interesting to see how that position takes shape with some new leadership coaching in the defensive backfield. Marcel Yates is the new cornerbacks coach at K-State. In fact, that just broke within the last hour or so. All right, that's first headline today. Spencer, give me what you got.
Yeah, we've got some numbers from the first weekend of March Madness. CBS Sports and TNT continue their record-setting viewership. It's the most watched tournament in history so far, with 10.1 million viewers through the second round. They had a record-breaking 19.7 million viewers for Sunday's early primetime window, led by KU's unfortunate loss to St. John's. But
unfortunate is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
We got some of our listeners who would hit you right now with that. This claim is disputed. Anyway, continue.
But yeah, 19.7 million viewers were watching part of that game. The most watched window in NCAA tournament history for the first week and was up 29% from last year.
And here I thought college sports were dying, that the NIL era had killed college sports.
Yeah.
Never been more popular, never been more people watching them on television. And that's not, again, I don't want to be flip, because I do think that there are legitimate concerns about the fan experience in what we, again, broadly call the NIL era. I understand that fans are frustrated and that they would like to see the fan experience part of it being you can't tell the players without a scorecard. You don't get to follow guys' careers in the same way that you used to when a guy would commit and he'd be there for 4 years. That's obviously different and a part of the fan experience that some of you have shared with us over the years you're not particularly fond of. And I understand that, and I think there's merit to that. But at the same time, this idea that, all of this is killing college sports, no. Emphatically no. And also the idea that, Cinderella not being a part of, we're not getting the upsets, and that's killing interest in the NCAA. That's bad for the NCAA tournament. Well, again, it doesn't seem to be hurting the number of people who are watching the second round games. In fact, you get better second round games when you have fewer upsets. It's the trade that you make. Some years, the last couple, you're going to get very few upsets. I think eventually the pendulum will swing back. I don't think this is forever necessarily. It could be. It could just be that is the power of the transfer portal, is that the rich will get richer with talent, and that the mid-majors will struggle in the end to keep up, and you'll see less and less of it. I suppose that trend could go in that way, but also it's a single elimination basketball tournament. Weird stuff can happen. Weird stuff has always happened in this tournament. And just because it didn't happen for a year or two doesn't mean it's never going to happen again. But when it doesn't happen, your trade-off is you get awesome second-round games with more big-name, brand-name programs, and you get a whole lot of viewership. And so, yes, the demise of college sports, or the demise of broad interest in college sports, has been, it would seem, greatly exaggerated. Let's continue on with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Another vacancy filled on the college basketball coaching carousel. This one was widely expected to the point where I was joking about it on Thursday's show. Siena head coach Jerry McNamara is the new head coach at Syracuse. He is, of course, replacing the departed, Autry was his last name, but I cannot come up with his first name. It's bothering me because he played there. Adrian Autry. Thank you. Adrian Autry was the previous head coach who had taken over for Jim Boeheim. Program legend, played for Boeheim, all-time great Syracuse player, and it just flat out didn't work out.
The guy after the guy that you fear.
Yes. The cautionary guy after the guy. And the cautionary, don't just hire the guy with the program ties. Don't don't move the guy up who has program ties.
That was like experience for my life. All the Marshall fans after Charles Huff left wanted them to go hire Byron Leftwich. And there's no reason he would even do it, because why? He would tarnish his legacy if he sucked like this guy did.
So yeah, Autry 3 years went 49-48, never made the NCAA tournament. Of course, now it is very funny that they turn around and they hire another all-time great Syracuse guard to be their next head coach in Jerry McNamara. But at least McNamara's been in the NCAA tournament as a head coach. Autry had no previous head coaching experience in his career. So it is different, but it's just similar enough to be a little bit funny.
Yeah.
Next headline, Spencer.
We have a retirement in the NFL. Bucks linebacker Levante David announced his retirement today after 14 seasons. He called for a press conference this morning, and he announced it after 14 seasons, starting 215 games, winning a Super Bowl. And what I'd say, one of the most underrated players, and one of the players in which you never heard the bad headlines about.
This is Levante David is a ball knower's like password.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about great linebackers of the era. Yeah, anybody can come up with Luke Kuechly. Anybody can come up with Bobby Wagner. But if you throw Levante David at me, I know you know ball. I feel old with him retiring because I covered his college game. I was working in Nebraska when he came to Nebraska. I believe he was a JUCO transfer. I want to say that he played junior college and then he came to Nebraska. And when I tell you those were not particularly awesome Nebraska defenses, but when I tell you Lavonte David was awesome always, that was one of those guys I knew even then. I knew even back then, like, man, whoever gets this guy in the NFL is getting a stud.
He went to Fort Scott.
Yes, Fort Scott, who no longer has a program. But yeah, Fort Scott, I thought it was a JUCO in Kansas too, but I could not remember. Yeah, Fort Scott, the departed Fort Scott Community College program. Then transferred to Nebraska. He was the 58th overall pick, second round pick in 2012 by the Buccaneers. Played his whole career there. Finished with 1,715 career tackles, 42 and a half sacks, 33 forced fumbles, 21 recovered fumbles, 14 interceptions. As you mentioned, he was a Super Bowl champion, a team captain. He was the longest tenured Buccaneer in his retirement, and he was a hell of a football player. It was every year. It never slipped. He was good instantly, great really instantly as soon as he entered the league, and he was great last year, and it just never ceased with Lavonte David. What a great player.
Little ball knower knowledge here. Do you know who he ended up later becoming teammates with again, that he was teammates with for 1 year at JUCO at Fort Scott?
I do not. Please tell me.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. JPP was a Fort Scott guy.
Yeah, then he went on to play for the Bucs at the end of his career.
That's right. Yeah, won the Super Bowl, obviously, in 2020, won Super Bowl 55. Less said about that one, the better, but that is Lavonte David's Super Bowl ring. But, yeah, what an awesome career. What an awesome, awesome player Lavonte David was. We got room for one more headline.
Okay. You're going there?
Yeah, we're going to do it. Because this cannot be, by rule, what is wrong with you.
Nope, cannot.
This story violates rule number one of what is wrong with you. Somebody dies in the story. That's rule number one. If there is a death, it cannot be a what is wrong with you. But at the same time, I would feel derelict in my duty as a sports talk show host, even though this is barely sports, if I did not bring to you the headline, quadruple amputee cornhole player fatally shoots man while driving. I'm going to read that again so you can absorb the details. Quadruple amputee cornhole player fatally shoots man while driving. 27-year-old Dayton James Weber is arrested and charged as a fugitive from justice by police in Albemarle County, Virginia. Charles County is seeking his extradition from Virginia, Charles County, Maryland, and said he will be charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and related charges. It is alleged that he fatally shot a passenger in the front seat of a car he was driving during an argument. Quadruple amputee cornhole player shoots man while driving.
I have so many questions.
I got a lot of questions about the mechanics of it, right? Like,
yes.
How's that work out? I love that the Associated Press story here that's linked on ESPN has to clarify. Weber went on to become a professional player of cornhole, a game in which players throw beanbags through a hole in a slanted wooden board.
So
they got to give you the explainer to what cornhole is,
which is funny because it's on. Well, I guess that's not an ESPN written story, but you see cornhole all the time on the networks of ESPN.
You do the Ocho. It's like it's like
not even when it's the Ocho. They're starting randomly in the middle of a non-sports time. Like big sports time on ESPN, you'll just see it. I saw this the other day. The first I saw of this was from the ACL, the American Cornhole League.
Yes, the American Cornhole League.
They just put out a statement like, "We are aware of the allegations of," and then put his name in there. And I was like, "Wonder what this guy did that he got." And so then, literally 30 seconds later, I see another post: cornhole legend or cornhole player blank accused of this, and I was like, oh my gosh.
So So, according to a news release, police officers in La Plata were flagged down by two people.
La Plata.
La Plata.
Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
had to correct
No,
you
no,
there.
please. That's like I would correct you if you mispronounced the city in Colorado wrong. It's fine. I appreciate that. La Plata police officers were flagged down just before 10:30 p.m. The two people said they'd been in the back seat of a car Weber was driving when the athlete shot and killed a man. Investigators said Weber then pulled over in the area of Radio Station Road and Llano Drive and asked the other passengers to help him pull the body from the car. The witnesses refused. This sounds like Pulp Fiction. Shoot the guy in the back of the car. And I think Quentin Tarantino wrote that scene in just so he got to say the N-word. He was really excited to get to say it. He seemed a little too excited to get to say it, is what I'm saying about Quentin Tarantino in that scene. But anyway, that's where oh man, you shot him. Travolta accidentally shoots the guy in the back of the car, and they got to go and they got to clean him up. That's what that part of the story calls to mind. Deputies say Weber then drove off with a body still in the car. They found a body in Charlotte Hall nearly 2 hours later. Weber's car was tracked down to Charlottesville. He was found at a nearby hospital being treated for a medical issue. According to the release, Weber was released and arrested. So it's a horrible story, and our condolences are with the victim and the victim's family and loved ones. But you don't just glaze over a headline that includes quadruple amputee. First of all, you start with quadruple amputee cornhole player and go, well, how does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, good for him. He's like the Jim Abbott / Tom Dempsey / Pete One Arm Gray, like all of those rolled into one. Anthony Robles of cornhole. And wow, how inspiring. I hope the next line of the headline doesn't ruin this. Oh, charged with murder. Because for many of us, those of us who do not actively follow the American Cornhole League, this is the first we've ever been confronted with quadruple amputee cornhole player.
Yeah.
So those are the first four words you see in the headline. Wow, this could be very, very inspiring. No, it wasn't. He was driving and he shot a man, and the man passed away. There's
videos out there that the guys posted on social media of shooting a gun, and like hunting and whatnot.
Oh, sure. Like I have no problem believing that an amputee can shoot a gun, just like I have no problem believing that an amputee can play cornhole, just like I have no problem believing that an amputee can drive a car. But doing like multiple of those things, I obviously wasn't playing cornhole while driving, but like driving a car and shooting a gun at the same time, that's where it becomes like, man, you really must have been nice with those limbs, like to be able to multitask like that. Must have been very skilled enough to be a professional cornhole player. Although he did have an 0-4 record for the 2022-23 Carolina Coasters of the ACL. So there's that. I didn't know they had cornhole stats. Is there a cornhole reference, like baseball reference?
I don't know, man.
We could go get the stats. I need the analytics. I need the cornhole analytics for this guy. Anyway, hope he rots in prison. That's going to be it for our headlines today. We'll come back with a final word to wrap up 580 Sports Talk. We got like 5 seconds each for a final word, Spencer.
Go Shockers, I guess.
My final word is enjoy the baseball tonight. K-State and Nebraska coming up on the K-State Sports Network from Learfield. First pitch at 6. Pregame coming up in a minute. We're back tomorrow. For Spencer, I'm Dan. It's 580 Sports Talk. Good night.